put them wherever in the world we want. And looks like we are started here. Uncle reminding us that, hey, we've done this before. And, 5 months into this tournament with X many matches played, this is not new for us.
Absolutely not. We get our wonderful Power Glove start. So this is going to be kind of interesting. If we get some more items as we're going through here, it might impact our early routing after we go into Kakariko. One of our first few pieces to Dark World access already in the first treasure chest. This could get exciting very quickly.
I like that glove early start. Oh my goodness, hammer.
And a hammer.
Also
First
coming
two items.
right out of the...
That's 2 out of the 3. All we're looking is for a jawbreaker here, and then we'll be right there. Also, 8 bomb drops to start, so there's some extra goodies on our way that we can get. Don't even have to worry about farming any bomb.
My goodness, this is everything I want at the start of a seed. This is what I want to start every single race with. Most of Dark World access, I'm not worried about bombs. This is exactly what you want to see as a runner.
Yeah, this is about as fast as you could possibly get. The only thing that could make this a little bit faster would be the boots, and I don't want to jinx it, and we're going to get the boots like right away, but that would be amazing.
Well, now, Vitasia, you've got me excited.
I mean, if I'm fine being the hype man, I can do that. We can do it. That hammer, of course, dealing tempered sword damage. Small key to this dungeon already found in this first chest, so at least that dungeon item's out of the way.
Alright, so runners headed through Escape now. They are going to have to do this standard section you're used to seeing at the start of a normal playthrough of Link to the Past. As they go and rescue Zelda, that's because... look at that Zelda icon in the top center of the screen. We've got standard mode on for this race. And once they rescue Zelda and get to the sanctuary, at that point, they will be able to go anywhere in the world that's open to them.
Yeah, and with these early items already, it's looking like the world is going to be opened up quite a bit to them if we do, in fact, have Dark World access. But with Key Sanity being the mode, it's really going to restrict our dungeon access. So it's going to be opening up the overworld for us. And overworld logic can really twist and turn you in quite a few different ways. So we'll see what is opened up for us here before too long.
And there's our first key to somewhere that's not the escape dungeon. We have a small key for Palace of Darkness already. 6 of them existing in total in this race. We're probably going to end up finding 4 of them required.
Yeah, you can open every treasure chest in the Palace of Darkness if you have 4 and you know certain tech, especially the hammer yump there in the Palace of Darkness. Otherwise, you need at least 5 to be able to get through everything, and that's still even if you have the bow to avoid that middle door at the start. So many keys. That does just mean that there's that many extra treasure chests available in pod, so it's an attractive option if we get enough keys to go that way.
That's right, and of course, we are playing all dungeons in this race, which means not only do you have to get those 7 crystals, beat Ganon's tower, defeat Ganon, you also have to beat Aghanim's tower, and you have to collect all the pendants as well. That means no matter what, you're clearing out every dungeon, and it makes it a little more attractive to go to places like Palace of Darkness instead of trying to just skip them in the hope that they don't have anything.
Yeah, let's not also forget, all dungeons also means having to clear out Aga 1 as well, so those 2 castle tower keys are going to be absolutely required to get through here. That could be one of those interesting trolls, because some people, when they're in an all dungeons Key Sanity, forget that those first couple treasure chests are absolutely available. We just got to be on the lookout for that a little bit later. Something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, and those 2 keys are going to be 2 special ones to watch for. They block off so little in terms of what you need to get to finish the game that they can be hiding almost anywhere, much like the Ice Rod. It's really common to see those keys, or at least the second of them, show up once the runners get to Ganon's tower, which is always something that agonizes them just a bit.
It's agonizing, but it's good routing. I've seen a lot of runners doing in all dungeons, wait and do AGA 2, and then they will immediately do AGA 1 immediately after that, simply because it gives you a full health refill just before Ganon, as well as just putting you right outside of Ganon's pyramid where you drop down anyway. So it's efficient routing if you can hold it off, but it doesn't always work out that way.
That's right. Now, at this point, runners have made their way through escape. They can put those 8 bombs they got to good use and crack open those 3 chests and really not get anything for their time. That was, well, 3 locations they don't have to get back to.
Yeah, other than the glove and the hammer, and we were going to get some sort of weapon from Uncle anyway, it's been kind of a sparse escape sequence.
Yeah, we'll have to see what Kakariko turns up. Looks like that's where Andy's going to be headed right now. Furaime close behind coming out of escape. And of course, we don't have a map check from these runners yet, mainly because in Key Sanity, your map's not going to tell you anything until you pick up individual maps for each dungeon. Furaime's not going to Village, though.
No, looks like Furaime's setting up a Houlihan room. What that does is going to guarantee 225 rupees to start out with. No rupees really gotten from the escape sequence, so gonna get a little bit of money just in case you need to buy some bombs or anything like that as you're going through the village. So interesting strat. Also, you can come up from the bottom and check things a little bit in a different route. So interesting strat here from Furaime. We'll see what happens.
And this could work out well for him. Andy got a big 20 in the Lost Woods, but the first tree pull he went for, that kill 4 enemies but take damage 1, only gave him 4 rupees. He's going to take another swing at the tree pull now that he's killed another enemy in the form of that Grow, and since it only gives him hearts, he is very low on cash, headed into Kakariko Village.
Yeah, Furaime is much better off, but doing a strat popularized, I think, by Pink Kitty Rose in the last tournament, going right to Eastern, foregoing Kakariko, at least to start off with. This is a bold move, Cotton. Let's see if it plays out.
Yeah, there's a certain reasoning to this that makes some sense. The hope is that you're going to find something like the flute or the bottle, I should say 1 bottle, before you get to the village, and that way you don't find yourself doubling back just to check Sick Kid. We see the back of Sazrala has a heart container and some maps, and Andy's over in Blind's Hut getting maps and the boots.
This might be Andy's favorite item in all of Legend of Zelda. What do you say? He's got to be ecstatic to see those boots this early.
The boots are a popular item for a number of runners I know, including me, just because they make the game more fun. All these long walks between locations just go so much faster.
Oh, and one of our first big keys, Big Key to Ice Palace. No real access to that yet, and really we can get around to using it. So not necessarily something you want to see right away. Furaime going right into the maze game, not even going to check. So far, Kakariko's coming up pretty blank other than these boots.
Yeah, going into race game straight away without even looking at it is a more common play in Key Sanity, because with all these keys in the overworld, there's so much other stuff that could be there, including, hey, why not give them the flippers?
All the footwear is available in Kakariko. Buy one, get one free. Oh, and there's an interesting thing in the chicken hut for Andy, the small key to Tower of Hera. So once we have a fire source, a basement access, we do have.
Lots of little threads coming out so far. Let's see what turns up in total. Just a bit more health from the back of the bar. Runners at 5 health or 5 hearts coming out of here is not a bad position to be in. We are playing hard mode today, so the upper limit on the number of heart containers the runners can have is, I think, 14?
That's correct. 14 hearts would be the maximum that they would be able to get. If you're in retro mode, the Take Any Caves would be able to up that, but since we're not in retro, darn, just plug it. So we have an early Ice Palace big key, and we have at least one piece of the puzzle to get to Ice Palace in the flippers. I suspect we might be going to Ice Palace earlier than we may want to, as soon as we get the rest of the pieces of that puzzle.
Yeah, we would still need Titan's Mitts, the Moon Pearl to stay as a bunny, or stay not as a bunny, and some way of melting those freezors, either the Fire Rod or Bombos. But I'm a huge fan of when the seed just says, hey, you want to do something like Ice Palace right at the start? Go ahead.
Andy looks like he's going back and he's going to try to get enough rupees. That not having enough monies for the bottle merchant really kind of played into him. He's worried about it. We happen to know it's just some artisanal bombs here, a little bit more expensive than your normal bombs. But.
So I didn't know this until today, but there is a tree at the bottom part of Kakariko Village. If you bonk into it, it'll give you 5 rupees, and it's certainly one way of farming money.
Well, he only needed 10. I mean, there are other methods that you could possibly go to do that, but certainly something for Andy to do since it was right there. Andy also doing bonk rocks while he's in the neighborhood right now. Heads up play by Andy there.
Oh, and there's 50 rupees for him. He could have used that before, but I imagine any money he finds he's going to enjoy at this point, since Zora is available and does require 500 rupees to purchase something from.
Absolutely. Andy's looking like, okay, he's checking the bush crab, getting some more magic. Might also be checking, doing the lumberjack check. More common to check this, especially early on, just to see what's going on. And it is a small key of some sort. We don't know. We might have to do Aga a little bit early than we want to.
You know, in an all dungeon seed, when you know you're going to have to do that tower, I kind of like seeing that small key on the ledge. It means that logically the game's going to expect you to do Aga Tower maybe a bit earlier than otherwise, and it might force those small keys into the game a bit earlier, and maybe, just maybe, you won't have to go into Aga Tower, or GT, to get those Aga Tower keys.
Oh, that's the dream right now, but we don't know if that's actually going to be how it plays out. We never know at this point. Andy doing kind of the traditional south route. Looks like Furaime is... warping over. Going to be doing something over here. Oh, looks like...
It's been a long time since I've seen someone use the warp that way. Most of the time I see that warp used, it's to go from the southeast up to the Death Mountain area.
Yeah, that's really heads-up play by Furaime, knowing that that's where it goes, because it's not something you see overall. I mean, that's just good routing right there. Very heads-up play by Furaime.
This is really cool, though. It means Furaime gets to do Ice Rod Cave and then circle down, eventually doing Mini Moldorm Cave, where Andy is now, and finishing the South Light World at the dam. It's just a little bit less travel time, and if Furaime wants, they can go straight over to the desert and Agina's Cave.
Well, it might be a different route here. Andy did find the Moon Pearl and the big key to Thieves Town, actually. So what we find ourselves in right now is that Andy's going to go over here to Ice Rod Cave. Furaime actually will be given Dark World access at this point in time and could route in Hype Cave, like, right away.
That's some incredibly convenient placement. Furaime having some trouble with the bomb strats here. I think he's going to get 2 Moldorms. Well, there's one at least.
Yeah, only 1 heart left for Furaime, and takes a fall. So saving and quitting.
That's too bad. There's enough money in Mini Moldorm Cave to go do Zora, but that play didn't work out today. It's going to cost a bit of time, and with 2 runners like this, every death you take is going to really eat into your play.
And this is what I'm worried about. Furaime is actually saying, taking a gamble right now and saying, I hope nothing important is in Mini Moldorm Cave. And that's not what we want to think about right now because there was a lot of importance there.
Well, they still might get down there. Andy, despite having the flippers, is going for the faster option of water walking. We saw him dash along the side of a pit in Ice Rod Cave so that he can keep using the boots and just go fast, fast, fast to the hobo.
Oh, and Hobo is going to give us a small key to Skullwoods. That's...
It's a small key that's logically required and not at all necessary to beat the game. Alright, Mini Moldorm Cave going much better for Furaime this time. Taking down all those Moldorms using that generous hitbox on the bomb explosion.
Absolutely. Andy, in the meantime, is coming up here, going to be checking out what's available at the Zora area and the waterfall ledge. This might be interesting. This might be something... Yeah, there's not enough money for Andy to go ahead and go unless there's another 300 rupees waiting for him at the waterfall ledge. Furaime's only about 6 rupees short to be able to do Zora if he wants to, but opting to continue on and might route Dark World in now.
Dark World does seem to be the more effective play rather than, trying to find those extra 6 rupees just to do Zora now. And he did make it as far as the Zora ledge, saw it was 3 bombs, and didn't want anything to do with that.
No, and it looks like Andy is now also heading to the misnomer that is Hype Cave. What do you think we're going to find here in Hype Cave? To me, it feels like the seed has been kind of pulling us in this direction, at least for the early part with this early access. What about you?
I am hoping that we get a fire source of some kind. Either lamp or fire rod, just so that we can light torches. It's going to reduce the amount we have to double dip dungeons with any luck. I'll take the Thieves' Town small key, too.
Yeah, that Thieves' Town small key with the big key that we already got there, that opens that up right away. And the rest of the dungeon was garbage.
Oh no, some money. But yeah, certainly with this combination of both keys to Thieves' Town, Andy now is in a position to just go and beat Thieves' Town if he wants. And that's often kind of just a thing you can do. Hey, I can beat this dungeon. Let me clear that out. Now I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, in particular, because there's 8 treasure chests total, or 8 treasure locations total within Thieves' Town. That's a very lucrative spot right at the moment to be able to go ahead and do, especially since it's a dungeon, and the Village of Outcasts should give you at least some additional options there as well.
Even better, Andy went and talked to the bomb shop guy. Learned where those 5 and 6 crystals were that open up the Pyramid Ferry, and figured out that one of them is for Thieves' Town.
Andy doing this dig game. Another decent source of rupees right here will help things out a little bit. And I think, yeah, just a big 20.
Alright, so Andy finished with that, is going to head over to the village and probably end up in Thieves' Town soon enough. Furaime's down in Swamp Palace. I think he's going to do some reading for us.
Yeah, this is a very popular early play I've seen. Some cash is held with the Grumpy Fish. Well, that's helpful, at least.
Either Zora or Catfish is going to have some rupees.
So which do you do? Do you do Catfish or Zora, or just say, I'll have to do it.
So if you're Furaime and you haven't done anything in the Zora area, I think you do Zora first. And if you don't get rupees from Zora, then you know Catfish is just going to give you money. If you're Andy, maybe you end up doing Catfish instead because you've done everything else in that area. Of course, Andy doesn't have that hint yet.
Now, it looks like Andy is going to be doing this Village of Outcasts sweep right at the moment. See what else we end up finding. Another small key to Turtle Rock. Not something you necessarily want to see this early, but okay.
And big key for Skull Woods showing up in the Bombable Hut. That's really nice to have. Andy hasn't even been to Skull Woods yet, and when he goes there, he can deal with that one chest. Remember that, of course, in Swamp Palace and Skull Woods, big keys only block that big chest, nothing else.
Looks like Furaime is now going to be doing these Zora checks right now. Andy does find the big key to Turtle Rock as well in this first treasure check. Furaime, at this point, if Zora has something, this is a great check for Furaime. Otherwise, kind of a backtrack, unfortunately, at this point.
Yeah, he wants to take care of this, make sure that it gets done. Doesn't want to leave anything behind, but we are seeing that because of just that death in Mini Molorum Cave, Furaime's losing a bit of time already. Now, this is going to be a long race, almost 2 hours. The lead can change back and forth several times, but it is going to be important that things like those deaths, those misroutes, are really going to add up for these two runners. Again, we're in the top 8 of the tournament. These two know what they're doing, and small mistakes do end up being costly.
Yeah, and Andy, of course, is one of the top runners in the community. You really have to run almost a perfect game if you're running against Andy. Furaime, very good runner in his own right as well. Really, you have to minimize all sorts of mistakes at this point in time. I will say, if something ends up being there at the Magic Bat, because Furaime did pick up that magic powder that was in Agina's cave. If something happens to be there and a significant progression item, it might help Furaime out quite a bit, because we know Andy's still going around and doing everything else that's in Logic. It could put him a little bit behind later on in the race.
That's right. That could be an important bit of leverage. Furaime buys 10 arrows for 500 rupees from Zora. That is terrible value for your money, but actually fantastic value from that Swamp Palace hint.
Yeah, so now we know that we can effectively just dodge the catfish entirely.
Yeah, that's a long walk that you don't want to do if you can avoid it. And upstairs in Thieves' Town, Andy picked up his second of the 6 Palace of Darkness keys. 3 is often the number where I hear runners say, okay, now it's time for me to head over to Pod. With the boots and the hammer, it's fairly quick to get over there. We might be seeing that check come up somewhat soon.
Okay, here's that magic bat check I was just talking about for Furaime. Nope.
A piece of heart. Nice to have, not essential.
Not at all. Not at all, unfortunately. Andy, in the meantime, is clearing out Thieves' Town. We haven't seen a whole lot here yet. We did see the hint. Oh, another 300 rupees. We did see the hint from the bomb merchant that says the 5-6 crystal is actually located. One of them is here in Thieves' Town. So the other one is in Tower of Hera. So this might lead us to a little bit more checks that we can do there in the Pyramid Fairy a little bit later.
I thought you were going to talk about a different hint, which is that we got the Ganon's Tower Big Key hint upstairs in Thieves Town. But we'll talk about that after this hammer fight that Andy's about to do, which always excites me. Needs to get 9 hits over 3 phases, and first one went flawlessly.
Yeah, it's not the easiest thing, hammer blind, but you can tell Andy might have practiced this just a few times, maybe.
You can tell that practice from the way he dodges those clusters of fireballs, because the fight's somewhat deterministic. Andy actually has a good idea of where those fireballs are headed and where to stand, and it works for him. He only got hit twice during that fight. Fairly clean overall. And a Turtle Rock small key along with the crystal. Nice work.
Yep, well done. Interesting, though, no real progression, except maybe the mushroom. That could be one of our fetch quest items, as we have Sink in the C-shaped house.
High five to the runners. So that hint we got upstairs in Thieves Town said that the Ganon's Tower Big Key is in plain sight. And that doesn't refer to a lot of spots. Usually it's somewhere that you can see, but just because you can see it doesn't mean you can pick it up. So we're thinking like Desert Ledge, Zora Ledge, on a torch somewhere. The nice thing about that is it narrows things down enough that if the runners can't find the Ganon's Tower Big Key, they might just be able to infer where it is. And that takes out one of the biggest headaches at the end of the seed.
Absolutely. I mean, it's all dungeons anyway, so we'll have to go to most of the places regardless. But bare minimum, I mean, that's something. And
what?
There's a little bit of vanilla here, isn't there?
That's not supposed to be there. Imagine just walking into Skull Woods and finding the fire rod in the big chest.
Yeah, that shouldn't happen, but it did. And here we are.
That's one of the best things you can find. You get it there, you head to the back of the dungeon, you take out Mothula. We're playing swordless, so that pesky curtain you have to cut has been removed, and we've got the hammer, so it's only 4 hits on Moth. This is great for Andy. Now I just want Furaime to do the same thing, because if he doesn't go there, it's going to be a long search for Fire Rod.
Yeah, several versions of the randomizer ago, I remember, you would almost treat Skullwoods as if it were part of the overworld. You just make the first few checks in there and then take off. That's fallen out of vogue recently in the runs I've been watching, but doing that this time absolutely is paying off for Andy, because it had exactly what I needed, and this might be the logical progression we need.
Just bombs in the middle chest. Andy making very strategic use of death warps here, just to get that little bit of health refill and send him back to the start of the dungeon without waiting for a wall master to drop down. Meanwhile, Furaime's over in Thieves Town doing that attic play, a couple minutes behind on this main track that Andy's on, but kind of makes up for it with a few extra overworld spots.
Yeah, it's still anybody's race at this point in time. Can't count anyone out at this early point, especially less than half an hour in. My goodness. Andy going to be checking this other spot, will likely be setting up another death warp here. Misery Mire, okay.
Why not?
Hot Cold Coffee in chat asks, does library count as plain sight? Yes, it does.
That was, I think, a piece of heart today. And Andy picked it up just because he happened to have the boots when he got into that room.
Yeah, and in expert mode, I mean, you're seeing it. They're at Andy's at 5 hearts. Furaime's at 6. Expert mode or hard mode really does kind of push you to the limits in terms of your damage taking strategies. We do already have blue mail, which we got in the hype cave, so that will help things out a little bit. But yeah, it can be really, really rough if you're not careful on your health here.
Andy, making sure to conserve his magic as best he can, gets through that mummy hellway. Very nice dodge of the mini Moldorm. He still has to take out this Gibdo for one more key. And then, I'm always a fan of the Hammer Moth fight. It's technically demanding and scary with 5 hearts, but impressive if it goes quickly.
Yeah, this is... We'll see where it goes. And he's using the Fire Rod as much as he can. Sometimes the key with Mothula is patience, but when you only have 5 hearts, you can't afford to be too patient because spikes can get out of control.
Andy is dodging things quite well in here. Over on the left side, Furaime also had a fairly nice Thieves Town blind fight. So that's his first crystal. And with a single heart, Andy is through the moth fight.
Clutch for just 50 rupees, though. That's... So no real... I mean, Fire Rod is our fire source at this point in time. Man, we're getting close to this access to Ice Palace if we can just find our other lift up.
That's right. I am rooting for that Titan's Mitt soon. Furaime checks the Bumper Cave ledge before heading into Thieves Town, or Skull Woods, I'm sorry. We see that it's Quake Medallion up there. No way of knowing yet if that's going to be required.
No, but it certainly puts... that's another one of those plain sight locations that we can check off, off our mental checklist. Still, Quake, that makes you a little bit nervous because, maybe if you do see Quake up on Turtle Rock or in Misery Mire, where's that cape?
It just means we're going to get cape earlier, and I was going to say that's not a bad thing, but in hard mode, the cape magic drains so fast, it's not really a useful item to have.
All right, Furaime is setting up this bomb jump in order to be able to get this Fire Rod. We'll be doing a double take, much like we were there for a second. Let's see where Andy looks like he's heading up Death Mountain at this point.
But Vitasia, don't we need a lantern to see in the dark?
I mean, I do, because I'm horrible at this game. Andy and Furaime, though, nah, I think they're fine. They can do this blindfolded, literally.
I mean, they still need a lantern to see in the dark. They just don't need to see in the dark to do this cave.
I mean, it's interesting because it does mean that we're kind of out of logic, so we don't know where that lantern is. You're absolutely right in that we're out of progression right now in terms of this, so we have to close our progression loop a little bit.
What's interesting here is that Andy can get that piece of heart from the old man. He can set up that save point, and that's great for later. And he can do Spectacle Rock, but he can't actually do much up in this area. He needs either the mirror to get on top of the mountain or Hookshot to get to the east side. So this is a bit of a time sink. That's a suspicious-looking big key on top of Spectacle Rock, though.
It is a suspicious-looking big key. It is in plain sight, and it's right outside Light World Ganon's tower.
Well, as long as that mirror shows up at some reasonable point, that's very probably a nice, clean Ganon's Tower big key. And Andy, having not made that hover, is going to do the loop around and just pick up that shield on the ground normally, not doing this check for the shield, more so going for that hint tile.
Shield reply. Ah, thanks, game.
Well, I'll tell him, but we've already got one. Alright, Furaime has made his way through pretty much all of Skull Woods at this point. Gonna head towards this same Mothula fight.
Meanwhile, Andy is going over here, going to be checking the eastern locations. Now, Furaime did already check Sahasrara over here, but has not yet checked what is possibly in Eastern Palace. Oh, and will Furaime be able to get
too short. Alright, it's okay. We made it through that room. We're a bit low on magic. You'd like to have a bit more if you want to do fire rod hits. But we'll still have 2 shots with this pickup here. Plus, again, only 4 hits with the hammer.
It does take a bit of a love tap from that spike right outside. That could be rough, because hearts are in demand for Mothula.
The tricky thing about Hammer Moth is that you can't really hammer upwards. You have to come from the side. And that just means you wait till the Moth comes down, you hammer him from the side, you capitalize on that opportunity, and you finish the fight like Furaime just did.
Yeah, that was a very clean Moth there by Furaime. Very, very well done. I don't understand why you were so nervous about Swordless, Furaime. You're doing great.
Okay, Andy's in Eastern Palace, going to be able to get 5 items here, but can't get to the very back without the bow. What's Furaime up to? Is it that same Death Mountain play?
Sure looks to be pointing that direction, doesn't it?
Oh!
That looks dirty. That is a small castle tower key that will allow us access to the second treasure chest in Castle Tower. That could be interesting.
That's actually exciting.
I mean, we still
that much closer.
Yeah, we would still logically need the lamp to be able to clear that. The dark rooms in Aga's tower are no joke.
Okay, so we've got the fire rod. We can light torches from a long ways away. You know, we have to do Aga Tower. It might even give us a small key. This could be, if we get that second tower key soon enough, one of those seeds where it makes sense to just go ahead and do Lampless Aga Tower. I'm a huge fan of dark rooms. The ability to do them is one of my favorite parts of Randomizer. Sorry, runners. I'm hoping we never see that lamp. I'm hoping you just climb that tower in the dark.
But what will we watch when we commentate the entire time? It's like, oh, he dodges left, he dodges right. I don't know what he's doing.
There's a torch they can light for the pit room, and we'll be able to see some stuff. Andy's trip to Eastern Palace really didn't work out for him. There might have been a small key in there, but nothing really to progress this seed in general. Is it time for a Palace of Darkness dip?
It feels like it to me. Palace of Darkness is about the only thing that we really have much access to right now. Andy looked like he was trying to set up a fake flipper, and he realized, oh wait, I have real flipper. He's going to be turning in this mushroom.
Yeah, this is the fastest way to get to the witch's hut from a save and quit. And note that Andy did this just after he saved the game. Since he hasn't picked up the magic powder, he might be about to do a hard reset here if the witch doesn't give him anything.
It looks like Furaime is doing the same thing. Oh, it is a small key to the second castle tower key. Oh, man.
That's 100% required, so Andy won't be doing a reset from there. And if the runners want that lampless castle tower, it is open to them.
I have a bad taste in my mouth just thinking about lampless castle tower. Oh.
Again, it's the fire rod that really makes the difference for that climb. And
Yeah, I mean,
normally I would say you put it off until you have the lamp, but is that small key sitting on the ledge tempting enough for them?
See, at this point, it almost feels like, I mean, lamp would either have to be in that first treasure chest in Castle Tower, since we would have logical access to that, or possibly in Palace of Darkness as well at this point. Furaime looks to be heading over to Pod at the moment, and oh, had that shield stolen.
Shoutouts to the pickets who will steal your shield, take away your ability to block things, but also save you a few lag frames every so often, since it's one less thing for the game to draw. Andy is headed to the castle. This is everything I wanted in the race tonight.
All right, Furaime is actually showing us the pyramid, which is another location we kind of forgot about a little bit, and it is another small.
This is the other nice thing about the Aga Tower play Andy's doing. Immediately after finishing this, he's going to be able to just grab that pod small key and head over to pod if he wants. 4 keys is a great number to have.
Yeah, 4 pod small keys at this point in time. It's absolutely understandable why Furaime's heading over here. Andy doing his darkroom day.
All you need to know is how to line yourself up to hit that torch across the room. And then you can just hammer or otherwise defeat these blue guards. And the rest of things follows pretty easily. If you're quick enough, you can make it further. In this case, Andy's just going to have to relight the torch and continue on.
Meanwhile, Furaime's over here in Palace of Darkness. 4 keys. Again, if we can't beat the boss yet because we do not have the bow. Can't even... Well, unless... Well, we don't even have a bottle, so we can't even skip that one door at this point in time.
That's right, we can't do everything in this dungeon. Unfortunately, we can't even open the big chest since we're missing that Palace of Darkness big key. But there's a lot on the table for these runners. And Andy is through those dark rooms very quickly. Nicely done. And I think Furaime's going to get the Hera big key soon. That's the hint that Andy just got. It's hiding in pod.
Doesn't do us a whole lot of good without access to Hera, but it's nice to know that could mean we're getting close to that access as well.
Oh, and there's the lamp in Palace of Darkness.
Right on target. Oh, that's interesting. That was another pod small key in pod itself.
So that's 5 total. Even with opening that front door, if we do the hammer yump, that's all we need.
All right, Andy getting ready to do his swordless Aga. It's not as easy as he's going to make it look. Hitting these Aga balls with the hammer, it can be a little bit difficult.
Yeah, ideally you might want the bug net for swordless mode, because of course that reflects the energy balls and has a longer time it stays on the screen. Just a bit more effective for trying to take out this wizard. But the hammer will work, and he just has to not get hit by the blue balls too many times. That's 2 already, that's no fun.
No, but the nice thing that you can bank on, knowing that your opponent is going to have to do this fight as well, So even if there's an excessive amount of blue balls, know that your opponent is going to have to suffer through the same.
That's right. Looks like Furaime picked up the shovel in that dark basement of Palace of Darkness. That'll be one more little fetch quest we can take care of fairly early in the seed, at least. And I'm not counting blue balls, I'm just seeing a lot in this Egg and M fight.
And this is not fun. Oh, and Andy missed a shot too. That's going to be a little bit frustrating.
Furaime is setting up the hammer jump here. He's pausing over and over because he's looking for 3 pixels of that bomb's shadow to be visible underneath the pause menu. It's a very strange cue, but it's absolutely reliable. And several pauses later, he is into the dark maze, able to clean up most of this dungeon. But, you know, we got that Hera big key. We can't get to Hera. We still need some other progression.
Oh, but that is kind of a big key right there. That is the Titan's Mitt. That's significant there for Furaime. Although I suspect Andy's going to be heading over here to Palace of Darkness here direct.
Definitely he is. Looks like Furaime's going to turn in that shovel, dig something up. You know, Titan Smiths don't do a lot for us right now. I guess we could do King's Tomb.
They open up this little place I like to call Ice Palace.
Oh, I like to call it that too, because that's its name.
Oh, and the mirror! So very suddenly, we do have access to Tower of Hera now. Logical access even to Tower of Hera. We had both the big key and the small key, in addition to the lamp, so we have logical access to get up here anyway. Plus it's the other 5-6. Plus we're going to have access to all of East Side of Death Mountain, plus Dark Death Mountain. About the only thing we won't have access to is Hookshot Cave, unless we find the Hookshot somewhere. Furaime's probably feeling pretty good right now.
That's a really nice little sequence that just opened up. Everything here is going to kind of drop into place. It's a nice sequence of items where you just kind of know you're not going to be missing anything.
Oh, that's not what we were thinking.
So that big key on top of Spectacle Rock that we and 1,800 people watching all thought was the GT big key because it was in plain sight is Desert Palace.
Thanks, game. I mean, that's a little bit of trolling by the game. Well done, Randomizer. I applaud your effort.
I don't even like to call things trolls, but I feel properly trolled by that. Impressive hover on Andy's side. It's a very difficult trick to line yourself up and get to the right side of Palace of Darkness. He gets a bottle for his trouble, too.
Yeah, that is our first bottle in the game. It does have some blue goo as well. Blue goo is half as effective in hard mode, but I think that's also our first bottle, so Sick Kid is actually opened up to us now, even if it is out of logic.
That's right. I enjoy the irony that you could glitch yourself to the right side of Palace of Darkness with a bottle, but the first bottle we got was on the right side of Palace of Darkness. Furaime using a hammer dash setup to get himself on the highest pixel for this bomb jump, bounces himself across and gets 5 rupees from the Hera big chest.
That was just very smooth there by Furaime. That setup takes a little bit to set up just right, but man, when you can do it, it looks swag.
And it's just gutsy. If you go too far on that, you're falling. You're having a bad time. So now it's time for Hammer Moldorm. Just 3 hits. And there we are.
Nice, quick, no drama from Trolldorm there at all. With a big 50.
All right, Andy's made his way through front of Palace of Darkness. He is going to end up getting the mitts and the shovel in here.
I guess
in
the
efforts
question,
of,
yeah.
well, no, go with where you're going, because I think we're going in the same direction here.
Yeah, this is one of those instances where, I know Andy, in watching his playstyle, he's not always a fan of checking those fetch quests when you can do something else. In this case, we might be getting to a situation where once he has the mitts, he will have access to Ice Palace. I wonder if he'll do Ice Palace instead of turning in that shovel, which has the mirror, allowing Furaime to do this wonderful sequence here.
That'll be an incredible divergence.
Yeah, that would be kind of a key divergence there, and it's all thanks to those pod plays. So stay tuned. We don't know what Andy's going to be doing. I'm just kind of making a guess based on his playstyle that I've seen in the past.
Andy's setting up for the hammer, yep. Doing a few pause buffers. Furaime finds the flute in Super Bunny Cave. That's always nice to have. Just speeds up all that overworld travel for you.
Yep. Still, can do the first check in Hookshot Cave, but looks like opting to do the rest of this particular east side check because, hey, if you have the hookshot in here, then you can just go ahead and clear it all out. Here's another Ice Palace small key.
That's, oh yeah, that's our second one between the two runners. Andy's going for that shovel spot. He is going to get that mirror. We're going to see him on this same Tower of Hera path. That's going to be good for keeping these runners in check with each other.
Swamp Palace big key. I mean, that's only one location at this point in time. Map, rupees, and
oh. Come on, Furaime. There you go. Get that mini Moldorm. Alright, so whenever we want, we can go back to Palace of Darkness and just beat it now.
Well, no, we can't.
Oh, right. That pesky little thing called the Big Key.
Yeah, that's also the one keeping us from Eastern Palace as well. So the bow, I mean, that does mean we have logical access to that bottle that Andy hovered to go ahead and. That really makes me wonder what Sick Kid has, because if that's our logical progression for the bottle, that would be me.
Just a little bit. Furaime and Hookshot Cave, bonking over these gaps to that first chest. Only a compass. So, you remember what his file names were at the start of this race?
Yeah, I do believe Furaime was Hookshot, please. Andy's already demonstrated he's very well known in the community for his hover strats. He's not the only one in the community that hovers by any stretch, but he is very well known and has won several races just because he can hover and his opponents can't.
Yeah, so if Andy ends up getting something from Hookshot Cave, something important, really could hurt Furaime. Then again, Furaime might be playing knowing, hey, Andy's going to hover Hookshot Cave. When he gets the hookshot, he might be right back up here.
Now, here's something I don't think I remember Furaime doing. Andy is doing the basement of Tower of Hera. They both had the small key to be able to do that, but I don't recall Furaime actually doing it. So this might be significant if something ends up being here.
You know, that's one of the better places to find the Cane of Berna. If you really want, you can just go check Spike Cave right now. Andy is going to come back here later, it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, that might be our logical access to Spike Cave because it does assume like a one-hit KO strategy, so we do need to have at least some sort of invincibility item to be able to get that.
Alright, what's Furaime gonna do with this flute? Nothing at the moment. Looks like he's headed into Dark World. Are we getting a King's Tomb and Graveyard Ledge check?
Might be that. Might also be, yeah, this Jeremiah loop down here checking not only the smith, but also the hammer pegs, and then looping that in with the purple chest.
Alright, Smith to this Circle of Bushes cave. This works too.
Yeah, this is fine. Go ahead and do this. Take the gnome back, and just 10 arrows.
So, hang on. Andy did the Basement of Hera. He got that Cane of Burna.
Mm-hmm.
Did he leave without beating Moldorm and finishing the dungeon?
Yes, sir, I believe he did.
Alright. I mean, it's not going to hurt him right now, but alright.
I'm just as confused as you are. He might be thinking item locations at this point over crystals, even though Hera is a little bit out of the way. Plus, it's the other 5/6 crystal. I don't know.
There's no reason to skip that, really. You just wouldn't.
That is absolutely something to ask Andy about. Andy is he plays 4D chess, as far as I'm concerned, above me playing this game, so I presume he has a reason.
Well, here's the reason that I saw in chat that has me a little worried for Andy. Apparently, if you go and you look on his own tracker, you don't see Tower of Hera marked for the big key, even though we can see it on his pause menu there. So if he's picked that up and doesn't know that he's carrying it, he could be delaying that for a while. Now, normally I'd say, okay, that's fine, I'm not concerned about it. He'll realize eventually he has it, and he'll just do it before he enters Ganon's tower. It's right there. The problem is it's one of those red crystals. It gives access to the Pyramid Fairy. Furaime's got that access right now. And whenever that access is very early in a seed, I really look at the pyramid suspiciously.
This is one of those things that if something is on the Pyramid Fairy, advantage Furaime. Even though Furaime has not run a perfect game with that Death in Mini Moldorm Cave, there's the silver arrows. That's huge.
Oh. Silver arrows, incredibly important in swordless mode, because trying to hit Ganon in that tiny, tiny frame window is not a good time.
Nope. And there's Andy with his hover strats that he's doing. Getting these other...
Note that he has to line himself up very carefully for that bonk, because he's squeezing himself into a tiny window on the other side. Nothing so far, but Furaime gets the big key for Eastern Palace over in the Mire Shed. That's a dungeon we can do now.
Absolutely. Probably going to check this desert area real quick. We do have the Desert Palace big key, don't have the small key. So, unfortunately, we'll not be able to full clear the dungeon itself unless Furaime steals a key. Probably would be super risky to do that.
No, you don't steal a key here. You go ahead and you beat this dungeon. We are doing an all dungeon seed, so you'll have to beat it. And more importantly, we're doing an all dungeon seed, and this is a pendant dungeon. So that small key could be hiding in almost anywhere. You probably don't need those right side chests. You definitely need to beat this boss.
Absolutely. Andy did go to Spike Cave, and it was Bombos.
It was.
And that's our access to Turtle Rock there. Oh no.
Oh, look at that Landmo fight. 6 Fire Rod
Perfect.
hits for Furaime. There we go. 4 dungeons down on his side. This is working out nicely.
Andy's setting up to get his Lumberjack ledge. Remember, he has completed AGA 1 already at this point in time, so we'll be able to get whatever this small key is over here.
I'm really hoping it's a Swamp Palace, because that's the most important one we still need. Oh.
Nope.
The thing about Ganon's Tower small keys is, if you're searching the dungeon for more items, you do still need those small keys. But 2 is enough. You can go into the dungeon with 2 and be sure to get everything. So that third key is of almost no value. And that's too bad for Andy. He may have been doing that early Aga play to try to get some leverage with that small key, and it won't work out for him here.
Furaime did show us what the desert hint was. It was some money is being held by the Kakariko Village Elder. So that is Sahasrara. So our green pendant, once we eventually get there, won't really be worth turning in at this point.
That's nice. You know, Pod's right next to Sahasrara. It's a very quick check to turn that green pendant, but it's still, what, 30-45 seconds you don't have to spend? And again, small bits are going to add up in this race.
Oh, and look at that in Checkerboard Cave. The slightly worse cane than the other one.
Slightly worse, instead of creating magical sparkles that make you invincible, it just puts blocks on the floor to let you beat dungeons. You know, yeah, 6 of 1, half a dozen.
Not needed at all, you know.
Well, that does open up Turtle Rock for these runners. We are seeing a lot of stuff available. Maybe hold off on Turtle Rock for the time being, because we can beat it if we just get that Ice Rod. But there is so much these runners can go do right now.
Well, and here's the added thing. Furaime can't even get into Turtle Rock because that Bombos is in Spike Cave.
Oh.
And remember, Furaime missed getting that Cane of Burna, which was our logical access to Spike Cave. So that's going to be kind of an interesting sequence of events at the same time of Andy not knowing that he can complete Tower of Hera.
So this is not something I see much. I'm used to seeing both runners miss an item. I'm just not used to seeing both be missing an item from the same dungeon.
From different parts of the dungeon.
Yeah, one went up, one went down, and they both missed something. Now, in Andy's case, it's less an item and more he's missing the crystal because he doesn't realize he has the big key for that dungeon.
So whose position would you rather be in? Andy's, where you mismarked something on your own tracker, or would you rather be in Furaime's, knowing that you consciously made the decision to skip a location?
That's a fantastic question. Personally, I'd rather be in Andy's spot, because there is that chance he looks down at his tracker at some point, or looks at the menu at some point, and sees that check mark and realizes what's up. Furaime's purposely left that location behind, and it could be a very long time before he bites the bullet back there.
I will say, this is uncharacteristic of both of these runners, as often as I've seen them both.
Yeah. Thanks for that hint, insulting us slightly and reminding us that we got those power gloves right at the start of the race. I do want to shout out how Furaime didn't go straight into Ice Palace. He went to that waterfall, or Happiness Fairy first. Spent 400 rupees, got 2 upgrades, and now he has more bombs and arrows more importantly, he filled his supply of bombs and arrows.
Yeah, bombs are very handy, and they have a lot of interesting tech here. As you can clearly see, man, you think Furaime's practiced that room with bomb strats? My goodness.
Ooh. Okay, so Ether Medallion in that first chest of Ice Palace means we can get into Misery Mire. We've got a big key so we can beat the dungeon. If you know what you're doing in Misery Mire, which these runners do, you don't even need any small keys. That dungeon is clearable entirely.
And that would be another crystal there. I am really curious, and it's driving me a little bit crazy that Furaime has not gone back for that Pyramid Fairy quite.
So, Pyramid Fairy's kinda slow to do. You can't dash while you're carrying the bomb. You can actually make it fairly fast if you beat Aga Tower first, because you have that extra Dark World portal at the castle. Maybe Furaime just needs to go to Eastern, get his second Aga Tower key, and that'll be enough to go do Aga Tower. Now, the good news for that is we've already got the Eastern Palace big key on Furaime's side. So maybe we'll see that happen somewhat soon.
Yeah, between that and the bow, that would be kind of a pretty great setup there for Furaime if he were to decide to do that.
And he's going to take that bottle he sequence broke and go check Sick Kid with it.
I mean, okay, I'll take it.
Yeah, take that shovel. I'm sorry, that shield.
Now, at least the shovel is useful.
Yeah, Furaime dislikes shields so much he let a picket steal it earlier.
All right, so we are about an hour 7 into this race at this point in time. Both runners kind of going over different logic chains at this point. Andy's doing some cleaning up the overworld. Furaime in Ice Palace. Both of them have kind of made a critical mistake, though, at this point in time. Andy might have corrected his. We'll see. He did not go up and do Tower of Hera because we believe he has misclicked his own personal tracker, so he does not know that he has the Tower of Hera big key. Furaime, in the meantime, did not go into the basement to get the Cane of Burna, which was logical access to Spike Cave, leading ourselves to the Bombos Medallion, which, of course, is our logical access to Turtle Rock. So there's really some interesting things going on in this race.
There's, a lot of different ways this could play out. That hint, that second hint in Ice that Furaime just got, or the third rather, was very good. Told us a unique item and a compass were on the Firelocked side of Misery Mire. Not only does that make Mire more attractive, maybe we can skip that cutscene chest.
That would be nice. Furaime also did just find the Swamp Palace small key, the only required key really to get through Swamp Palace as well. That gets us into the front door. We still don't have the hook shot, which I think is gnawing a little bit at Furaime right now. But otherwise, that's a great item to have.
Nice bomb jump from Furaime there. Takes out these two Freezors. And gets 20 rupees from that chest. We are coming up on the end of Ice Palace. And I always look forward to a good Hammer Cold Stare fight.
I mean, here's hoping. We do have blue mail, so we're a little bit better off than we normally would be. But, Hammer Cold Stare is not necessarily fun. You got to get right up in that snowy eyeball goodness.
Furaime's pausing here slightly. Might be checking some math to make sure that Cold Stare's beatable and says, hang on, I don't have enough magic for this fight. That's a really important thing to recognize when he did. And I believe under some pots in here, he might be able to get some.
Very, very heads up there by Furaime. We've seen lots of players throughout this tournament and other tournaments who have gone it down in there, and then, oops. I mean, you need a full magic meter.
You don't need a full magic meter if you have bombos. Unfortunately, that's not on the table here. Clever. By grabbing that other small key, Furaime is able to enter this last door, hit this crystal switch, and pick up these guaranteed jars of magic, which will fill everything up. That will work for beating this dungeon.
Very heads up play. We'll have to spend a little bit of magic here, but we do have some other magic available in this room.
Alright, 8 shots with the fire rod, all straight into Cold Stare. Now we just have to use that hammer, keep them all together. When they escape like this, things can get hairy.
Yeah, this is where it gets a little bit nerve-wracking because you have so many things going on at the same time, and these things hit like truck.
8 hits per puff, there's one down already. Furaime was hanging out at the top of the room for a while just because the ice won't shatter and fly everywhere. It will only fall if you're hiding at the very top. I think one more hit from a puff is acceptable because they'll only do 3 hearts when you got blue mail. 2 puffs down. And there we are.
Very nice fight there by Furaime. Rewarded with just a 5 rupees. But man, another crystal, more importantly, does find that Swamp Palace small key, which is going to be required. Where to next?
I don't know. I'm just happy I can breathe again. No, I think Eastern is perhaps the intuitive play here. Eastern or Misery Mire. Those being just 2 fully clearable dungeons. Even in Key Sanity, the rule still stands. If you can full clear something, just go ahead and do that dungeon. Worry about other stuff later.
Absolutely makes sense. And Furaime is setting up. Oh, are we going to get a bird toss? Are we going to get a bird toss from Furaime?
Listen, it's just a frozen bird. It's sitting there. It hasn't harmed anyone. Furaime just wants to take it into the dungeon. Why not? Try to show it a good time.
Pet bird, huh? Did not throw it. Oh, Chad's a little bit disappointed. I don't know why you're disappointed, Chad.
It's just a bird. It's nothing crazy. Nice Mire 2 from Furaime there.
That was
using
amazing.
that Kana Samaria. What was really clever with that is that the Wizrobes were spawning at different times, just offset from each other. But by putting the block where the beams from the block would hit the Wizrobes at slightly different times, he was able to still take them out in very few cycles. That's the kind of thing that only works when you've practiced the room to death. You know exactly when and where to drop things.
Absolutely. That just shows the mastery of this game that Furaime and Andy as well both have incredible mastery over this game, just showing us exactly how it's done and maybe some neat tech to copy in the future.
Now, Andy's in the Cold Stare fight too. He's got the advantage of having Bombos for this dungeon, so he was able to get some Fire Rod shots, since Bombos doesn't use your entire magic bar. Andy mopping these things up fairly quickly and safely. 2 puffs down already. And Furaime sees that compass and knows that he's going to have to do the cutscene chest for one more unique item.
All right, and here's Andy with his crystal. Now, where does Andy go at this point in time? Does Andy follow Furaime into Misery Mire? Does he end up going over to Eastern, which he has at least started to clear now, so it's less of a priority for him? Where do you go?
I think it's the same thing as this Mire Eastern double whammy. I think we're seeing Andy prep for the Mire play. Look at this arrow capacity upgrade he's buying.
Oh,
interesting.
That's actually great news for Andy. And the hook shot!
That's great for Furaime. But yeah, cash and cash in the Pyramid Fairy spots means we do not need that big red bomb today. That'll bail Andy out a tiny bit there. And hookshot is going to be nice to see for Furaime, and great for both the runners since, hey, Swamp Palace just got added to the table as something completable. We are getting very close to go mode here.
Oddly enough, the one thing we haven't found that is really questioning go mode for me right now is that Ganon's Tower Big Key. It is someplace that is supposed to be available to us, at least from a vision perspective, but we haven't really seen it yet, have we?
So does that mean it's just in Ganon's Tower sitting on the torch? Is that a reasonable gamble to make? Possibly.
I mean, absolutely. I don't know if I'd be gambling on that right now. I'm trying to think of other kind of just sitting there spots that we could possibly see. But at this point, yeah, I think that's it.
Now, of course, when I say we're getting close to go mode, it's more like we're getting close to no mode. Just because, Andy's going to need those silver arrows to finish the game. Furaime's going to need bumbos. There's some items between these two runners that one has and the other just doesn't have. That's in addition to the big keys we're still missing, particularly that Palace of Darkness one and that ever-elusive Ice Rod.
Now, and as chat is pointing out right now, Ice Rod is Turtle Rock is a pendant dungeon, which tells us that it's entirely possible for that Ice Rod to be hanging out in Ganon's Tower, which would be just amazing for us, horrible for the runners.
We'll just clear the whole basement, and we get to check the Ganon's Tower big chest, and that's always a good time. Furaime's headed into the dark basement now with Mire, and I look at his arrow count and I get really happy. It's 35. Andy's got 35 as well. They both bought that upgrade. Vitreous takes 3 arrows per small eyeball and has 9 small eyeballs. That's 27 arrows. Takes 8 arrows for the big eye. That's 8 arrows. 8 is 8. You add those together, it's 35. These runners have just enough until Furaime shot an arrow there to take out Vidi solely with the bow.
Well, it's the thought that counts. I mean, at that point, 7 out of 8 shots, still doing very, very well. Worth noting that even though Furaime does have the silver arrows, remember, in hard mode, silvers are not active until Ganon itself. So, even though we have them, aren't going to really do a whole lot of good.
All right, a few bombs here is going to do enough damage to one of the eyes, or many of the eyes, that we'll be able to get through this with only 34. This will still work. Furaime is slightly limited by the fact that you can only have 2 arrows on screen at a time, so you can't just spam the bow as recklessly as you'd like to. But we're done with that first part, and it's just 8 into the big eye. 8 is in fact 8, and that'll do it.
Great fight. We saw Furaime practicing that at the beginning of the race, just before it started. And another crystal. That's got to be, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 5 crystals. Plus can go ahead and clear out Eastern Palace for 6. Swamp Palace now with the hook shot is clearable for 7 as well. So if we want to go ahead and do everything up through... Oh, really? We can clear everything but Turtle Rock, can't we?
That's right, and we can go through Turtle Rock all the way up to fighting Trinex. Looks like Furaime is opting for the Swamp Palace play here. So it is important to remember Andy's going to finish Vitreous a couple minutes after Furaime does, but he still has that lead of having done Agate Tower already, so don't think that Andy's behind just because of this. Do, as we've said before, continue to worry about that Tower of Hera situation for both runners. Oh, and Andy hovered Misery Mire. It happens, he does that sometimes. I'm not worried about it.
All right, Andy is setting up. I mean, he also has the 35 arrows. Looks like he's going right for arrow strats. Furaime, meanwhile, is doing Swamp Palace.
Now, there is one thing you have to be careful of with his arrow strats, and that's if Vidi shoots lightning, it can actually just eat your arrows up. Also, if you miss your arrows, they don't hit Vidi, and that could cause problems for Andy here.
Yeah, you saw him shooting that from the side.
This is fine. It's, what, 2 hammer hits? There we go.
Remember, silvers were in the lunchbox, purple lunchbox there from Gary. Andy has not done that whole Jeremiah loop check, any of those. So he might eventually head that way, but it's possible that he could be avoiding that. He has plenty of other places he can go, lots of dungeons that you can clear out. So it's absolutely just kind of a preference in terms of where you want to prioritize. Do you want to prioritize the dungeons that you know you have to clear out anyway, or do you want to do some overworld stuff?
Yeah, that's a very tough call. And maybe with silvers, what you end up doing is you get through most of the game, you don't have them, and you just say, all right, fine, I'll do the first 3 phases of Ganon. He'll tell me roughly where the silver arrows are, and Andy can just use that hint to go and get them later. It does take some extra time, though, and it's not necessarily time he's able to give up.
It does look like Furaime is going to be doing... Oh, man,
Oh,
I
look at
love that. I love that.
Sometimes you just bonk into a Samaria block to send it flying. Snipe that switch from far away. Little swag play.
Oh, Lord H. Veterinary is saying that on Andy's stream, he has now checked the Hera big key. So he might be fixing his mistake here before too.
That's certainly a relief to hear that that's one less thing in the way of these runners. Andy now still needs that silvers from the purple chest to catch up on that front. Furaime needs some way of getting through Spike Cave. Although, there comes a point where you just say, hey, I've got plenty of hearts. I can drink a potion to get 7 more back. I'm just going to walk through Spike Cave.
Well, there is one problem with that point of logic. Furaime still does not have any bottles.
That's right, you'd need to finish Palace of Darkness, that being the only bottle we know of on the right side. A small key to Misery Mire in the left side of Desert Palace. That's a little bit too late for that.
I mean, I don't know how useful it would have been either way, but I mean, nice, maybe?
So,
happy to knock that out.
If you go into Misery Mire with a small key and Key Sanity, it's actually really nice. Oh, there's our third shield in the small big chest. But if you go in with a small key, you can do some good routing in that dungeon, because you don't have to go to the right side first, you can go straight to the left. It's nice, but it's by no means required.
All right, so Furaime now going to show us kind of this last few treasure troves of Swamp Palace here. Swamp has been kind of uncharacteristically empty at this point in time. Not a whole lot going on. 10 arrows, 20 rupees.
See, I can hear you saying that like you're trying to set it up to have dramatically something revealed from a chest as a twist, and I liked what you were doing, it just didn't happen.
I do not have any power of commentator's blessing. I have no idea what you're talking about.
There's some interesting ways that the runners are dashing through this dungeon. There's just so many enemies on the floor, and normally you have a sword and you just knock them out of the way and that's fine. In Swordless, we don't just sweep enemies away, we don't have that luxury, and it's a huge pain. And that's why we see the runners stopping all the time, canceling their dashes just a bit early, so that they can dodge around enemies or hit them with the hook shot or something.
Furaime is doing an interesting strategy here for Argus, trying to maximize and minimize the amount of time you are spending menuing, pulling 2 of the R guy over at the same time, and then getting the hammer out. Sometimes, though, just depending on where Argus is positioned, you can only get 1 at a time, but absolutely trying to maximize his time. He's absolutely practiced this Swordless.
Ideally, you get both puffs in a single hammer hit, but even just 1 by 1, that's fine. Ooh, Furaime having some trouble with that menu, accidentally selecting flute a couple times. Duck will not reach us in this boss fight.
That's really too bad. We could really go for a duck pecking out some eyeballs at this point.
Oh, very nice fire rod spam from Furaime. 4 hits straight into Argus, rewarded with a red boomerang. But very quick way to do that second phase in 1 cycle.
Very, very nicely done. All right, so Furaime clearing out Swamp Palace at that point in time, another dungeon down. At this point, can't flute.
Well, Eastern, right? You just do Eastern now?
I would, absolutely. That seems to be the play. You kind of want... The thing I'm worried about is the Palace of Darkness big key. Where is that? It's a pendant, so it could very well be in Ganon's Tower anyway. Do you start thinking that everything else you need to clear out Turtle Rock and Palace of Darkness are in Ganon's Tower, or not?
Yes. Yes, you do. I think that's the position you're in. I like how Furaime is getting to Eastern, though. Just
in case, yeah.
Yeah, just in case. Also, doing it this way means right side of pod can get checked, because Furaime didn't do that hover, so we will see the bottle come into play here. This is a slower way to get to Eastern, but it gives you slightly more for your work.
It's a 5 to 10 second time investment for the possibility of saving a minute or two later if the Eastern Palace big key ends up being in any of these other checks that Furaime has to do. Yeah, Jay Coper, there is a bottle. Andy ended up hovering to get it. It's on the right side of pod right now. So we know what Furaime is going to end up finding here. Will not necessarily find anything that he's looking for. That being said, it's our first bottle, and it's going to be Blue Goo. So it's going to be good news for Furaime at that point. Andy does end up defeating the R guy, gets his superior red boomerang. Boss wife Carolyn, is Bombos required? Yes, it is going to be required to get to Turtle Rock. Remember, this is an all dungeons mode clear. That means Ganon will not take any damage once we get to him unless all the other dungeons, including Aga Tower, are cleared. Right now, remember, Furaime has not done Aga 1, so we'll need to be really concerned about that at this point in time. Andy looks like is also going to be going to clean up Eastern Palace. Will not be setting up a mirror over here to Palace of Darkness. That's going to be significant because if there's two locations here in Eastern Palace that could possibly contain the Palace of Darkness Big Key, the Big Key treasure chest, and also on the Armos Knights itself. If Pod Big Key is on one of those two locations, Furaime will have saved quite a bit of time with his setup the way he did. Otherwise, Andy saved about 5 to 10 seconds there.
I've seen races won by less.
Yeah, and at this stage in the race, seeing races won by that little is absolutely possible.
I've been in races where I lost by less.
That doesn't sound salty at all.
Not in the slightest.
We're allowed to have a little salt, man. I understand.
Alright. Back half of Eastern. I'm still a little sad that we got that lamp. I love seeing dark rooms.
Well, because Andy has already cleared out the first part of Eastern Palace, will get to skip everything that Furaime is doing right now. Just had already done it. So Andy has shown us that it's not in the big treasure chest. If it's on Armos Knights, then Furaime will have the superior routing. Otherwise, Andy will have the slight advantage there. Andy still has the advantage over Castle Tower. Furaime just now getting the other Castle Tower key. That was an amazing double strategy there from using the Canis Amaria to effectively clear out 6 of those little tentacle guys. I've never seen that. That was really amazing to see.
Yeah, that's the kind of the standard way of doing that room in Swordless, and it's just one of those tiny adjustments you have to make when you can't, say, walk into a room with a spin charged. You just have to know what's coming and how to react differently depending on your mode. And with so many modes in this tournament, that knowledge has come in handy for a lot of these top-tier runners. Too bad we only got another Meyer small key from doing Eastern.
That is unfortunate. In the meantime, that does mean that... wonder where... Oh, Andy is going to probably be doing the Smith checks at this point in time. Coming over here instead of going up to... he hasn't cleared any of the... well, I guess he's done one pendant dungeon. Has not done Tower of Hera, or has not done Tower of Hera, has not done Turtle Rock, which he does have access at least to Turtle Rock. Really going to be interesting to see when Furaime ends up getting that Bombos medallion. And I take it back. Andy's not doing Smiths. So Andy is really liar.
Furaime gets the quick kill on Armos as well. The trick, of course, if you've never seen that, is to get 2 hits in on the last Armos Knight before it's the final remaining one. Then you land that 3rd hit just as its companions go out, and it never has a chance to refill all its health.
Oh, Furaime is actually going up. Looks like setting up doing the Aga's Tower to start with. This is super interesting.
I quite like this. The idea is you have to do this tower no matter what. There's 2 chests along the way. If you get your required items in there, then that's a lot less of Ganon's Tower that you end up checking. If it doesn't work out, well, okay. You didn't get to mirror from GT, but you're still not clearing. You're still not that far off.
Yeah, I guess, when you look at it from a perspective of minimizing future mistakes versus what has the most potential, I can absolutely see it from that perspective.
But, Ice Rod, Palace of Darkness, Big Key, both still hiding from us. Could be in Ganon's Tower anywhere, could be in Turtle Rock pretty much anywhere. There's also that nasty 4th Turtle Rock key that is required if something's in the lava chest in Turtle Rock. There's still some stuff eluding these runners. I'll be very surprised if we can avoid that full clear of Ganon's Tower.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to be able to avoid it right now. The other thing we have to take into mind, although I think at this point we're almost certain to find the Ganon's Tower Big Key. We did get the hint earlier that said the Ganon's Tower Big Key is in plain sight, and at this point about the only plain sight location we have not seen is going to be on that torch. So no one's allowed to guess 3 in the Big Key guessing game, guys. No one.
Wait, you better not guess 3, because it'll be the first spot they go to. Alright, Andy's doing South Dark World, or South Loop, I should say. Getting that Cave 45 check. But soon enough, gonna be getting these silver arrows. Oh! And today we learned that if you hop over that ledge just as you start your dash, you can dash with the big chest, and that gets you to the old man fairly quickly.
And there are the silvers. Andy is ecstatic to see those, I'm sure. And one thing that I didn't realize we picked up as we went, the bug net. So Furaime is going to have a slightly easier time. Remember, Andy did miss one of the balls here on Aga. Hopefully, I don't think Furaime will do that with the bug net, making it a little bit easier.
I think that bug net was in the 2nd chest of Swamp Palace. Normally you'd call it the 1st chest because the very 1st chest is guaranteed to be a key. But it's normally the map chest. It's behind that bombable wall at the start. And both runners should be carrying it. We just don't have it on the tracker because we've got tons of other things to track in Key Sanity.
I have no idea what you're talking about. We don't have anything to track in Key Sanity. So Andy looks like he is going to go ahead and open up this Ganon's Tower, or not Ganon's Tower, I'm sorry, Turtle Rock. Does he go ahead and dive in here? I would like to think so. the less time you can spend in Ganon's Tower.
I think you certainly check the hint, because it's so close. And maybe you check the first 3 or 4 chests. After that, you're going a lot further into the dungeon. And I can't... Well, maybe you go all the way to Laser Bridge. It's very hard to say. Of course, if Ice Rod shows up here,
Just
you've
do
made
it.
the right call. Well, there's your first Turtle Rock key.
Oh, that's horrible.
What are you talking about? It's great. Now you don't have to agonize over that lava chest. That's fantastic.
No, I know it's amazing and fantastic and wonderful, but I'm just like, why anything in its vanilla dungeon location is just a little bit unpalatable for me for some reason.
I'll definitely agree with that, especially when it's kind of that marginal key for a last chest like that.
Are we still agonizing over Ice Rod? Yes, we absolutely are. We're agonizing over Ice Rod. We are agonizing over Furaime if he's going to get the Bombos medallion, which is in Spike Cave, which Andy managed to get earlier. Remember, our logical access to Spike Cave was the Cane of Burna, which was in the Tower of Hera basement, which Furaime strategically skipped.
So, after all of this stuff we've done so far, the runners are fairly close together. Andy, a couple minutes ahead heading into Ganon's Tower. You know, we could see this split based on a left or right side, but of course now I remember. Andy's not doing GT yet. He's still got to do Hera.
Yeah, Hera's a relatively quick dungeon to do, but not going to be able to skip anything, but there's not a ton to skip in Hera anyway. So really, these last few items are really going to hold us back. Can Furaime end up finding the Bombos medallion? Also, where is that Palace of Darkness big key, and where is that Ice Rod? Andy has not found it anywhere in his early dips into Turtle Rock, but he didn't go too far in.
All right, Furaime, before you go further in to GT, just go ahead and do the Hera basement. Alternatively, just get the cape in the basement of Ganon's Tower and get your Spike Cave that way.
So Furaime does have 3 keys at very least, so we'll be able to get some, at least pretty far in here.
2 bottles in the first 2 chests. What is this?
A drink for you and a drink for me.
Alright, right side of Ganon's Tower. Furaime's got to light some torches. Does know that there's that full magic refill under some pots, taking a lot of damage between spikes and enemies here. Down to only 3.5 hearts. Gonna have to be a bit careful. But right side does seem like a good early play, just to make sure you get those chests when you are afraid you're going to check everything.
Absolutely. Oh, there's a full heart container. That's another full heart container. So this is the Room of Love. And there's a big key to Dark Palace!
Very nice.
Andy looks like he's setting up to do the... No, Andy's mirroring out.
Okay. Andy's not a fan of the right side play. It's just a thing he doesn't do. Oh, what's that in plain sight there?
Oh my! It's the big key to this dungeon that they get almost simultaneously. I had no idea that was going to be there. Did you?
If I hadn't paid attention to the hints, I would have been surprised.
Oh, the book. That does bring kind of an interesting thought process. We're still looking for that ice rod. I mean, could be there.
Yeah, there's a well-known bug in the game right now that items can't be on tablets requiring the Master Sword just because of how the game places swords, but in Swordless, it's all counted differently. Look at that sink in the room until Andy gets bullied by Stalfos and falls in the pit.
Oh, well, I am disappointed.
But yes, tablets can have progression in swordless modes. So maybe Ice Rod is as simple as stepping outside, mirroring, and getting the Ether tablet. Maybe it's as terrible as going all the way down to the Bombos tablet.
That would be extra interesting knowing that for most of version 30, tablets don't have progression. So the fact that it's possible right now would make for some really interesting play right here for these two, if they're heads up and are aware of that weird little divergence there.
Alright, there's the cape in the randomizer room. That and the fourth bottle with green goo. That all might contribute to having Furaime finish the basement here, check Spike Cave, and hopefully get that Bombos. It's still a pain to get from Spike Cave back to Ganon's Tower, but that might be what he needed to stay in this race.
It's possible. We're still missing that elusive ice rod. It could very well be in Turtle Rock. It could also be on Armos or on Helmasaur King as well. That's one location in Pod we haven't been able to check as well. Still a lot of the game to check. Heads up by for
Andy skips the big chest to Ganon's Tower. Furaime goes straight there.
that was one of the swords. Actually, it looked like it was a 20 rupee.
Yeah, that does indicate that this would be a sword, if not swordless, but we're playing swordless, so no sword. Sword. I'm sick of that word now.
There's the ice rod.
Hiding behind Ice Armos. Alright. Andy now just the pod big key away from hitting go mode. It's on the right side of Ganon's Tower. I have to assume he's going to head there soon.
Yeah, it does look like he's going to go ahead and do that play. That will be go mode for Andy once he gets there. Furaime, do you do Spike Cave? Going over to check the tablet first. Oh, and Andy's doing tile room. There's our other pod small key. Oh no. Oh no, Furaime.
Oh no. It's understandable, right? Because if you do Spike Cave, you're circuiting the whole mountain to get back up to Ganon's Tower. And you just don't want to do that. It's just not going to work today.
It's one of those situations, there's nothing really stopping you from completing this dungeon and going all the way back up the mountain.
No, this is not in itself a problem for Furaime. It's just kind of the culmination of Furaime's woes with Bombos, with Spike Cave. A very nice bow dash. Real swag strat there. Andy having trouble with the torches on the right side of Ganon's Tower. And that door keeps shutting on him.
I'm doing a quick reset just to get things set in place. I'll say this much, both Andy and Furaime are good enough runners. Most of the time, they don't spend an hour 50 to complete a full seed, even an all dungeon sort of key sanity seed. This is kind of random around a few different places. You have to wonder about fatigue setting in at this point in time, running the same seed under these sorts of pressures, and neither runner seeing it not done quite yet.
Yeah, I mean, the good news is, based on where that ice rod was, I think you can be fairly certain your opponent has also cleared the entirety of the game before they got here. And that at least gives you that knowledge of, okay, this is not the end of the world that I got it. In Andy's case, getting the pod big key in almost the last location he possibly could. It still makes for a long race, though. It's a long time to keep doing this, especially with all the menuing that comes in swordless mode.
Absolutely. So Furaime ends up completing Land Mode 2. The problem is, out of magic, that's going to make these Wizrobe rooms a little bit more difficult, unfortunately.
Yeah, you can still use Cane twice on a single jar of magic, which Furaime gets to do, and then we did pick up a green potion, so that'll be enough to get through the torch rooms.
Okay.
Andy has, of course, left Ganon's Tower straight over to Turtle Rock. I like this play. You do this while you're relatively close by, you finish it up, you run back to Ganon's Tower, and then you're done with everything. You just beat Aga 2, do a little detour to Pod, and then you're done.
Yeah, at this point, I think we can objectively say that Andy is in go mode. He is in the lead in this straight line race at this point. We're still waiting on Furaime. I'm always going to mispronounce names. It's a thing I do. But just going to be waiting on him to find that Bombos medallion. Unfortunately, kind of pulled in every direction except where it actually is, which is Spike Cave.
Yeah, Furaime is going to check every chest in Ganon's Tower. And we'll probably end up doing Palace of Darkness, finishing that off with 2 checks before getting there. Note that he just walked through the wall. That's what happens when the bomb explodes at the same time the door 2 rooms ago shuts. The game gets a little confused if 2 things happen at once.
What? Are you saying that early 90s era video game coding wasn't meticulous and flawless in every way?
It was incredibly meticulous and thorough, just not thorough enough for the incredible amount of stress that speedrunners put on it. So, Andy's got 3 hearts. Didn't see him take the safety door. Trinex does 3 hearts per hit, even when you have the blue mail. It's a good thing he knows what to do with this hammer.
This is still a really nerve-wracking fight, though.
The trick is not getting greedy, understanding when that center head is going to come out, and just being able to dodge that when you know it's coming. See, you look at this, you look at the way he stands still, baiting that head to go for him, and then just moves at the right moment. That's how you can be sure it's not going to hit you. Now we just need 5 hits with the hammer. That last upward-facing hit had me tensing, but clean enough.
Very nice. Furaime, meanwhile, had a very nice Aga 2 fight, did some swag strats with the Bugnet Dash. Very nicely done. Can't quite go to Ganon yet. Still has a couple things to do. Most importantly, finding that Bombos medallion. Also has to go over and do Palace of Darkness.
Well, we can go to the Ganon fight. He'll just call us a dingus, and he won't get hurt in phase 4. So, probably don't want to.
Is that what he actually says? Does he say you're a dingus?
I can't remember if it's dingus currently. I know there was a time when he said got wax in your ears when you got to phase 4, because he tells you at the start of the fight too, hey, you can't beat me right now.
Yeah. Furaime is going over to Pod. Pod is effectively done at this point in time. Only thing, hoping against all hope, that that Bombos medallion is going to be on Helmasaur King. We know it is not. We know exactly where it is, thanks to Andy. Come to find out, yeah, that Hera play that we talked about, an hour and a half ago, it feels like at this point, is going to end up making the difference.
Just a side note, while you do want to stick around and watch this gauntlet, this rest of the gameplay that these runners are going to do, also open a tab and keep it on the background. On Speed Gaming 2, starting right now, Kyong92 and Willard J. Bradley are doing their Game 3 in the round of 8, because the randomizer doesn't stop while we have matches on. It stops after that because we're out of matches for the night.
Yeah, but we're getting down to the nitty-gritty, the very end. These are going to be the top 4 finishers. The winner of this race and the winner of the next race will be joining. I'm pulling that up here. We'll be joining Korik and Thalane, who have also made it to the top 4, and that is already set for the opposite side. The winner of this match will face the winner of that other match going on Speed Gaming 2. So absolutely, multi-Twitch have, I'd rather you listen to us because I think we're pretty entertaining. But, get ready to jump over to that other match.
That makes one of it. No.
Hey!
I want to shout out Andy's gauntlet play there. When you do that in Swordless, it's a matter of understanding the hammer hitbox and how it's not what it should be by any reasonable definition of where the hammer's landing and where it's hitting. And again, that's just a case of practicing, drilling the rooms over and over to understand where you can stand and hill sit things.
Yeah, I mean, Andy has done this gauntlet at least a couple of times in his video game career, I would say.
All right, Furaime, with some arrows, takes out that second phase of Helmasaur 2, or Helmasaur King, gets another big 20, and I guess at this point, you go back for the big chest, and then hopefully Spike Cave and not tablets, but at this point, this is Andy's race.
I think at this point, if you're Furaime, you have gambled that it is not up on Spike Cave. You have gambled that it is not in the Tower of Hera basement. Those are your last 2 checks, unfortunately. We know as runners that that's exactly where he needed to go. But at this point, if you're a runner and you legitimately do not know where it is and you've already gambled someplace that you've walked by 2 or 3 or 4 times, the correct play in my head is to continue to avoid it because you've already lost the race if it is there.
That's right. Furaime doing another one of these bomb jumps. Gonna show us the contents of this big chest. Can't really be anything great. I am amused that it was another big 20 for a sword. We have seen those appear very late in this seed. Not, of course, that it matters since we're playing swordless. Ooh, Andy going for the hover and falling to Moldorm too.
I mean, it happens. You can't be perfect at hovering every time, and that's perfectly okay.
All right, Andy, do you just switch to the hammer and do this the conventional way at this point? No, you just get 3rd try as the charm.
You just do it. Oh, Furaime is going over here to Bombo's tablet, thinking it might be vanilla.
I mean, we've already had the vanilla fire rod, a vanilla key in pod, an almost vanilla key in Turtle Rock. But it won't work here, only 5 rupees, and he's going to do some bug net strats too.
Furaime, remember, has missed the Bombos medallion to be able to open up and clear Turtle Rock. That is in Spike Cave, the original access to which was in the basement of Tower Hera, which Furaime actively skipped.
He's doing it right now. That'll work out. He will get Bombos and be able to do Turtle Rock, but it does not look like it can be enough. Andy has beaten Aghanim 2 and is going to take on this Ganon fight. It's a tricky one when you're swordless. Requires, again, using that weird hammer hitbox, mitigating the fact that you get knocked back so far every time you hit him. You have to get very close, and you need 12 hits in each of the first 2 phases. Andy's going for potions? Oh, pod. That's right, this is all dungeons. We still have to do Palace of Darkness. But yes, in a comparison of running straight to the boss in Palace of Darkness and running straight to the boss in Turtle Rock, Turtle Rock does take substantially longer. Furaime getting bullied by this combination of dead rocks and giant cabbage rocks. There we are, he's through, but that's a lot of health to take in a real slowdown.
Yeah, it is unfortunate that he's taken so much health. Might end up even doing like a strategic death warp once he gets into Turtle Rock so that he can get some health refill at that point.
I mean, you can just bonk the pile of rocks right outside Paradox here. That'll give you a fairy. That'll be more than enough. All right. 2 simultaneous cutscenes. Thanks for that sync up, even if it was in different parts of the world, runners.
It was kind of nice. So Furaime now will be able to just go mode and get through Turtle Rock as quickly as possible. Now that everything is open here, Andy will be able to do Helmasaur King and be well on his way to Ganon. It's still going to be a very close race, so Andy cannot rest on his laurels in any capacity, even though he is ahead. Furaime is right on his tail.
I really like Key Sanity Turtle Rock Go mode. Normally, Turtle Rock Go mode is still kind of slow because you have to find small keys along the way. You get stuck at certain points. You still check most of the chests. In Key Sanity, when you're in Go mode, you come here, you don't open anything, you just blaze through every room. I love it.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite dungeons to do is Key Sanity Go mode Turtle Rock, because you can just skip everything. You don't have to care about a single thing.
I guess you do still have to steal a key, which Furaime is doing right now. Andy missed a couple of arrow shots on Helmasaur King, but then got lined up with that jewel, takes out that boss, and is about, at this point, finally, unlike the earlier bait I gave, to head to Ganon. This is nice too. You just save and quit.
Yeah, save and quit. You won't have full health to start things, I don't believe, but I think it's worth it to go ahead and get you there. Ooh, I don't know, 6 hours.
7 hearts. Okay, it's enough.
And Ganon,
Actually, with blue mail, with blue mail, the margin on health is really nice at 7 hearts. Andy racking up those hits on phase 2 of Ganon. Ooh, a bad pattern there where the bats look like they shouldn't block you, but you just can't hit them without getting hit.
Ooh, this is going to be really tight for Andy. He cannot take any more damage.
It's okay. He's through phase 2, and this is why that 7th heart was the really, really critical one. We don't need to potion here. We've got silver arrows. We just need to get 4 hits. There's 2 all at once. And we don't even need Torch Glitch. We're just going to let Ganon come straight down to the bottom. What a lineup there. 1, 2 more.
That was very nicely done.
That's exactly how you want your phase 4 to go. Nicely done. So Andy walks through that door, wins that race with an official time of 2 hours, 6 minutes, and 46 seconds, takes the series 2-1, and advances to the top 4 of this tournament. Congratulations. We'll see if we can get him in here for a chat.
Absolutely. GG to Andy. Moving on to the top 4. And I think that's him. GG.
That's him. Congratulations.
Hey, that's me. GG's.
So we got to ask, because the big story for about half the race was wondering if you had misclicked on your tracker about that Tower of Hera big key, and wondering when you would get back to it, because you could have cleared it your first time up there, but just bypassed it. Was that a misclick there?
Oh, yeah. I was... So, after Skullwoods and all that stuff, I was going to go to Pod, and I was like, well, I want to find another Pod small key or the bow or something before I go in there to try to save, needing 5. So I decided to do Mushroom and Zora, and then I got the Agatara key, so I was like, well, I'm going to go to the pyramid first anyway, so might as well just do Aghanim to be on the pyramid. Then I got the hint that the Hera big key was in Palace of Darkness. I was like, oh, I'm going there next anyways, great. And then I just completely blanked on registering that I got it and just never clicked it.
Oh yeah.
And then luckily it didn't hurt me too bad. But I started thinking about go mode items in Ice Palace and writing down on my notepad. And then I got the hook shot and I'm like, okay, well, I can scratch that off my list. I'm going through my keys, and I'm like, Hera big key, and I'm like, wait, don't I have that?
So what it took ultimately was just kind of tallying everything up and going over the list. Okay. Furaime is now in phase 2 of that Ganon fight, hiding out inside the circle of bats. Looks scary, but actually is fairly safe.
Yeah, overall, the seed was just super linear. Kind of bottlenecked to Pod, and then opened up pretty much everything else.
Yeah, it certainly kind of dropped things in the obvious path. You got a Pod, you get the mirror, then you just kind of head through the mountains, and things drop in your place at that point.
Yeah, I don't really, with the way things laid out, I don't really think there was a way that you're not full clearing the game, minus like Turtle Rock in this situation. Which happens in Key Sanity sometimes, but
yeah, especially all dungeons. Although usually it's that Aga Tower big key that eludes it.
yeah, I'm really glad that the Aga Tower small keys were relatively early, because they're usually not.
Meanwhile, Furaime has beaten Ganon as well, walks across that bridge, and finishes this race with an official time of 2 hours, 10 minutes, 32 seconds, less than 4 minutes over a 2-hour race separating these runners. Good work, both of you.
Yeah, it was an amazing race to finish everything off. Just GG's to both of you. Andy, was there a point in time where you felt like you were behind or ahead, or at any point in time that you just felt a little bit differently about the game?
Not really. I was really worried that like gambling Turtle Rock was gonna be the decider in the seed. Like going into Turtle Rock. That's why I did the first 3 chests in Turtle Rock. Because looking for Ice Rod and Pod Big Key, there's 12 chests in Turtle Rock compared to 27 in GT, so it's like, 2/3 more likely, I suppose, about. Which isn't great odds. So I checked the first 3 chests in Turtle Rock, plus I wanted to get my magic back, which was easy to do. So I kind of leaned the scale a little more towards GT, and luckily both things were just in GT.
Yeah, it was, so I don't know how much of this you caught, but one of the big divergences was you went into Hera, you didn't do the top half, and Furaime didn't do the basement, didn't get that lovely cane of burner right there, and so Bombos was go mode on his end.
Yeah, that's what he was telling me.
But yeah, we spent a good portion of the seed wondering when anyone would go back to Tower of Hera, and partly when you would end up going and getting your darn silver arrows. Was that just part of your routine cleanup before you resigned yourself to full clearing Ganon's Tower?
Yeah, because if Ice Rod is there, I can just knock out Turtle Rock on the way up. So it was just getting rid of those last 5 or 6 checks before heading up there.
Well, it worked out for you in this case. So I do see Furaime talking in chat about this. If you do have questions for him, feel free to throw them around there. Usually very responsive. And congratulations again to him for getting this far in the race. Top 8 is still very impressive. And I look at this execution and I go, there's a reason he was still in the tournament at this point. So good work.
And again, do not forget, going on right now, Andy will be taking on the winner. It is Game 3 between Kyong92 and Willard J. Bradley. That race is going on as we speak over on Speed Gaming 2. So I imagine Andy might want to go and check to see who he's going to be playing here pretty soon.
Yeah, Willard tweeted at me yesterday after I lost and said, "I'll see you in top 4." Okay, so I held up my end of the bargain. So now he just has to hold up his.
Well, it's Willard on Twitter. We'll have to see how seriously we want to take that.
I'm all about getting some WWE trash talk between folks on Twitter through this turn. It's like, Willard J. Bradley, I'm gonna crush you up I don't know. I don't know where I was going.
Like the magic powder, that's the most crushed thing.
Oh, yeah, that'll work.
All right, Andy, any final thoughts for the night before we sign off here?
I'm really tired. and I want tournaments to be over because I have 2, maybe 3 more tournament matches in the next 3 days. So, yeah, that's it. I'm ready for a break.
Well, go ahead and take a long nap tonight, and best of luck in your remaining tournament races in both this and your other tournaments. And he's gone already.
He's gone. Yep. Do want to give a quick shout out to our wonderful Osgeek, who has been making it look easy for us while we get to have fun talking back and forth to one another. Osgeek is doing all the work behind the scenes. Thank you so much, Os. It's been a blast. Don't forget, there is that race going on over on Speed Gaming 2. There is also this weekend, tomorrow at 2:30 Eastern Time, there is round 1 of Korik versus Delane. It is going to be a standard Uncle Assured Sword Key Sanity. And then on Sunday, also at 2:30 Eastern, will be a standard Uncle Assured Hard Mode Key Sanity. So lots of Key Sanity going on right now.
Yeah, those 2 runners have very similar preferences in what they pick, and I believe that matchup might even be a repeat from the spring tournament or previous tournaments, so I've got my eye on that one. I've got my eye on every remaining match in this tournament, though, because we are down to the wire, and if the quality of play is anything like tonight, it's always going to be more good stuff.
Nothing but good things. Mr. Phileon, do we have anything else to add for the evening?
Nothing except to say, go check out Speed Gaming 2. I'm going to watch that race with great interest. Have a good night, everyone.
Have a good rest of the night, everyone.